So here we are for another class. It's August already. My God! Today we'll review the answers to test 3, round 3, and then at the end of the class, I'll hand out the questions for next month, which will be test number 4. Again, this is the map of the world. We break it up into 6 regions. The Americas, number 1, 2, Europe, 3, the Russia, or the Russian Federation, correct, is its official name. And it's a single region because of its geographical size, the largest country in the world geographically, or territorially. Then we'll go into Asia. Then sub-Saharan Africa, all those countries in Africa below the Sahara Desert, hence its name, sub-Saharan Africa. And then the Middle East, which geographically speaking is a misnomer, because if you recall from past classes, that's only 6 countries. But it's a generic term that's been pretty much internationally accepted. Probably a better word would be the Islamic world or the Arab world. And I said, about a year ago, to get us more familiar with the sub-regions within each of these regions, I was always beginning the class with one of the regions. Last month we did Europe. This month we're going to do the Russian, here I say Russia, but actually the Russian Federation. This is just another map of the world. Without all the different regions specified as in the last chart. Today we're going to talk about the Russian Federation. That's its official international name. And I thought before I started that, it would be worthwhile to sort of set the stage. When we talk about the Russian Federation, it is actually today 15 republics that was formed after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. And this chart does a good job of depicting those 15 republics. You've got Russia, which we referred to as the Russian Federation. Then you've got these countries here, they end in stan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. These are basically Muslim-type populations. And this is generally when you hear people talk about Central Asia, these are the countries that they're talking about. You've got 3 countries that provide a buffer between Iran and Turkey and Russia. That's Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the last 6 countries are countries that kind of is a buffer between, again, Russia and in Europe. It consists predominantly, when we talk about these countries, we're talking about the eastern part of Europe. When the Soviet Union collapsed and the Eastern European countries reunited with Europe, 6 of the former republics, or the former Russian republics, identified more with Europe than with the Russian Federation. And that includes the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, which has been in the news since February 2022, when Russia invaded it. That war is still going on, or that invasion is still going on, even though it looks like under the Trump administration, we might be making some move not only towards a ceasefire, but hopefully the end of the war. And then you have the 6th republic, which is Moldova. And so that was the old Soviet Union that collapsed in 1991. This is the Russia, or the Russian Federation today. It can really be broken up into a number of regions. The Russian core right here is really the heart of Russia as far as industrial and technical and military capability. When you talk about the Russian core in relation to Europe, you'll sometimes hear, oh, Russia is part of Europe, generally referred to as Eurasia. And that's because of its proximity. Basically, it's separated from the rest of Russia by the Ural mountain range, which goes all the way down into Kazakhstan. So you have the Russian core. Its capital is Moscow. You've got Siberia. We've all heard of Siberia. A very vast, sparsely populated thermofrost part of Russia. And then you got the eastern frontier, which borders on China. During the Cold War days, at one time, both the Russians and the Chinese had very large standing armies between the two countries. And then you have the Far East that hasn't really been fully developed yet, but it represents the gateway to the Asian countries, like Japan, South Korea, and the Southeast Asian countries as well, like the Philippines, Malaysia. So you have four major regions: the core region, Siberia, the eastern frontier, and the far east. Territorially speaking, it's the largest country in the world. Population-wise, it's roughly 175 to 200 million people. It is considered one of the 14 countries in the world that have a population greater than 100 million people. Yes?
You were listing the countries that end with Stan.
Right.
Do we know what Stan stands for?
Country of.
What?
Country of.
Country of. Okay.
Country of?
Country of.
Thank you.
Okay. Matter of fact, when you think back when we talked about the Middle East or the Arab world, one of the regions is Turkestan. And it includes these, the map doesn't show it. It includes these 5 countries and also the country of Afghanistan. So they all end in Stan, S-T-A-N. Yes?
Each of those regions have a government with representation. Are they independent or are they just regions?
Well, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1941 and 1991, there was a coalition, at least the Russian Federation tried to establish a coalition that would provide economic and security to these republics after the Soviet collapse. But over time, they've kind of, made their own way. For example, the Eastern European countries, the Soviet republics in the eastern part of Europe identified more with Europe than they did with the Russian Federation. So they're all still considered independent. But obviously, Russia still maintains a strong influence. Matter of fact, sometimes in geography, you'll hear these 14 republics referred to as Russia's near abroad. And Russia's interpretation of that is if any of those countries takes actions that they feel jeopardizes the national security of the Russian Federation, then they will not hesitate to step in and take either whatever economic, military, or political action necessary. Kind of like, in a way, our Monroe Doctrine here in Latin America. Our position is that, yes, they are all independent, but if an external force comes in that jeopardizes the security of the region and the United States, then we will not hesitate to step in. A good example of it would be Cuba during the 1960s. And if you go over the years, you will see that Russia has in fact, intervened in the different republics. For example, Georgia. They did it with Armenia, Azerbaijan. They have very strong ties with Belarus. We saw the invasion in Ukraine in 2022. Yes, independent, but with a very, very strong oversight as far as the Russian Federation goes. And then certainly under the Putin regime, they're not afraid, to intervene when they think it's in their national best interest. Yes. You need questions on Pat? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, and so this gets into the presentation itself. Before we get into the answers to last month's test number 3, I always sort of have a review up front of open questions of our meeting last month, and we had a number of them, and I'll go over the research, what I found in the research. This particular chart actually goes back to about 2 months ago. Last month, I had a response to what was the height of Machu Picchu. And I showed you a map that outlined the Inca track from Cusco all the way to Machu Picchu. And the highest point of that track was known as the Dead Woman's Pass. And somebody asked the question, well, how did that come about? Why is it called the Dead Woman's Pass? And what I found is the Dead Woman's Pass is the highest point on the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, with an altitude of 4,215 meters, 13,829 feet. The name comes from the surrounding mountains at certain angles, looks like a sleeping woman lying on her back. And this is the Inca Trail. This is the Dead Pass here. This is the reference to that sleeping woman. And I was able to actually come across another chart that kind of shows you. If you really look at the mountain ranges from different angles, you do get that impression that there is possibly a woman sleeping. Okay, we had a geography question, again from test 2. And the question was, the military guard that protects the Roman Catholic Pope in Vatican City comes from this European country. And the answer was Switzerland. It's the Swiss Guard. And a question was asked as to, how were the Swiss Guard selected, to be the protector of not only Vatican City, but the Pope as well. And the answer that I found, that in 1506, Pope Julius II selected the Swiss Guard because they had no allegiance to the warring European countries like France and Germany and Spain and in the UK, or England at the time. And also the warring that was going on between the Italian city-states. Pope Julius II felt that they would serve the papacy faithfully. The Swiss Guards had an unchallenged military reputation in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period. This would probably be a good time. Someone in the audience did some research on their own as well, and they were interested in how the uniform came about. And so, if you want to share what you found.
At the last meeting, I said that the uniform of the Swiss Guards was designed by Michelangelo. That's false. And the person responsible was the head of the Swiss Guards from 1910 until 1921. And since he was the head, he somehow ended up with the task of designing the uniform, which apparently is the oldest continuing uniform in the world. And he picked the colors of the family in Florence. What's the name again? The
Medici.
Medici family. I should remember that. The Medici family, red, blue, and the third one, some books say yellow and others say orange, but I don't care what color you want to call them, it's spectacular, okay? And that's how those uniforms came into existence. And they have another branch of the Swiss Guard. If you see the Pope in St. Peter's Square in his Pope-mobile, or in a foreign country like Fifth Avenue in New York City, there are men dressed in black suits with white shirts and ties who are walking very fast next to the Pope-mobile on both sides, in the front and in the back, in addition to the local security of the country he's visiting. And they are also considered part of the Swiss Guard, yes. But no fancy uniform, yes.
Yeah, kind of like our Secret Service.
And
Now, if you're
the name of the person who designed it, my memory is a little rusty here. His name is Jules, like Jules Verne. Jules Ripon, R-E-P-O-N-D. Jules Ripon. That's it.
Thank you.
If you're really interested in getting a better feel of the Swiss Guard and how it operates, not only in terms of the Vatican City and the Pope, see the movie, if you haven't already seen it, The Da Vinci Code. And it all focuses on the inner operation, and you'll see the Swiss Guard and its uniform, on guarding the Vatican City. And as the movie progresses, you see these undercover agents in black suits, kind of like our Secret Service, who provides security for the Pope himself.
I thought you had a picture, did you know, of the Swiss Guard? There it is, yeah, that's, okay. Yeah, they do,
Okay, we had a couple of questions came up as far as the geography portion of the test went. The first one is, what separates the Gulf of California from the Pacific Ocean? The answer was the Baja Peninsula. And a question was asked about the ethnic groups that make up Baja California. And the answer is Baja California belongs to Mexico and is made up of indigenous people, Mexicans, Spaniards, and other foreign nationals like Americans.
They go there to retire.
Yes? Yeah? Yes.
And the wise guy, the Sinaloa cartel.
Okay, all right.
Say what?
Sinaloa cartel, all the drugs.
Oh, okay.
And this is just a map that, shows you where Baja California is.
There's a lot of whale activity too along the Baja, is there not, on the ocean?
I don't know. I would suspect that there would be, because I know when I used to live in California, there
People
was
go
a
there.
lot of whale watching across the whole
People go there
coast.
to watch, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay, we had a second question. On question number 2, what U.S. state has the highest overall elevation? The answer that I gave was Colorado with an average elevation of 6,800 feet above sea level. One attendee research showed Alaska as having the highest overall elevation. This chart that I'll show you in a minute shows that it's Colorado. The question itself is really kind of confusing as to what do you mean by the highest overall elevation or the average elevation. They took all the elevations in the particular state and I guess they averaged it out and that became the height for that specific state. And this chart here shows you that the two highest is Colorado first at 6,800 feet, followed by Wyoming at 6,700 feet. And when you talk about Alaska, if you look at the chart, Alaska, comes in just around here. Now that doesn't mean that Alaska may not have the highest peak, in amongst at least the contiguous states. But the average is considered Colorado.
I hate to interrupt, but
No, go ahead. I mean, this is, learn from each other.
we've heard of the Grand Tetons, right? And I don't want to offend anyone, okay? But Teton is a French word, which means breasts. So the French-Canadian fur explorers looked at this mountain range, and that's what came into their brain. So that's what it means. The Grand Tetons. If you look it up in the dictionary, that's the definition.
Thank you.
And it's quite breathtaking if you've ever been to the national park.
Oh, yeah, the French city.
Okay, we had another question on geography. It had to do with Mount Rushmore. We identified the 4 presidents that are currently there: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. And somebody asked a question about adding President Trump to Mount Rushmore. And the answer is on January 2025, U.S. House Republican Anna Paulina Luna introduced a bill to place President Trump on Mount Rushmore. The bill has not moved forward in the House. It was never brought to hearing. You have to go to hearing before you can get at the subcommittee level before you get to the full House. In July 2025, U.S. House Republican Andy Ogis sent a letter to U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum to put President Trump on Mount Rushmore. The U.S. National Park Service has stated that any new carvings on Mount Rushmore would be impractical, simply because there's no, adequate space. But yet, at the time that the bill was submitted in January 2023, they did have a photo of what it would look like. There was also another question, and not actually a question that came up, but when we were talking about Mount Rushmore, I made a reference to the fact that there was a national carving for the American Indian Nation that was in fact in the process of being, constructed. And I said that I would end up bringing in a picture, and I did a little background information as well. After the Mount Rushmore question, there was some discussion about an American Indian Nation's carving in the Black Hills of South Dakota. The massive 500-foot mountain carving is of Crazy Horse, a Lakota warrior. Matter of fact, the Indian chief who was responsible for Custer's massacre. It is privately funded by the Crazy Horse Memorial Foundation and was started in 1948. The carving is 17 miles southwest of Mount Rushmore.
Is it finished?
No. This is the sculpture's, goal to what he wants to, or what the foundation wants to accomplish. And this is roughly what it looks like so far about 7 years ago. Most of the construction right now, and you can faintly see it, excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
most of the construction is building this part of the arm, and they're hoping to have that constructed. The latest estimate is 2037. Big problems they have is they accept no government funding. It's all done through private donations, and it's a very, very slow, tedious process of getting the funds to continue the project. I believe it's on a native land, so it's not like it's U.S. federal, territory.
And what year do they expect to finish it?
There is no completion date. They've been working on it. They started in 1948. Progress has been very, very, very slow. You can see
Is there a reason?
getting the funds. You know, it's on Indian reservation. They're not accepting any federal money, so they do it only through donations, through the foundation.
What are their casinos?
Yeah, you would think that it would not be a problem, but currently funding has been very, very, very slow. And it is a major engineering undertaking. I mean, if you go back, from this chart here, I mean, you can see they have a long way to go as far as reaching, this level of detail. But they're moving in that direction. I think this is the last open question. Again, U.S. geography. Which U.S. state is home to the most complete fossil of the Tyrannosaurus rex, nicknamed Sue? And I gave the answer. I also mentioned that there was another Rex fossil, but not in the same level of detail. A question was asked if the Tyrannosaurus rex was the largest or biggest dinosaur. And the answer is no. The largest dinosaur is the long-necked sauropod. Also, during my research, I found that there are other Tyrannosaurus rex discoveries in Alaska, a footprint, and in the largest T-Rex skeleton, Scotty, in Saskatchewan, Canada. So there are a number of Rex skeletons and footprints, here in here in North America. And this is what a sauropod looks like. And then we get into the answers to last month's questions. Where is the country of the Maldives located? The answer is the Maldives is located about 470 miles off the southwest tip of India in the Indian Ocean. And this shows you where it's located, right here. And I think it's kind of like a archipelago of about 2,000 islands. And what's made it such a tourist attraction is that most of the islands are just above sea level. And if with the passage of time the sea level starts rising because of global warming, then this country is going to disappear. So many people want to say, I was there when it was still in existence. So it is a major tourist attraction internationally. Question 2, name the 6 countries that make up the former Yugoslavia. Remember, prior to World War II, Yugoslavia was part of Eastern Europe. During the time that it was under Soviet control, Eastern Europe became known as the Warsaw Pact countries. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Yugoslavia basically broke up into 6 separate states. And those states are Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia. Note, in 1991, when Yugoslavia broke away from the Soviet Union, Serbia and Montenegro formed a union, and they continued to use the name Yugoslavia. On June 3rd, 2006, Montenegro declared its independence, followed by Serbia on June 5th, 2006, which resulted in the 6 states today. Yes?
Yugoslavia means South Slavia. Yug is south in Slavic languages.
Okay? Okay?
I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it?
Oh, okay. Repeat, Jim, please.
Yug is south in Slavic language. Sever is north, Yug is south. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just the geographical area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this part of the world is very Slavic, you know, as far as ethnic background goes. And this here shows you the 6 states: Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro. Montenegro is right down here in Macedonia. And it had its name changed. There's another issue that aroused here. When Macedonia declared its independence, the Greeks took Greece took exception to it, saying, no, that's a Greek name, you can't use that. And they threatened not only an economic boycott, but also the possibility of using military forces. It was finally settled in a treaty in which Macedonia renamed itself to North Macedonia, and that seemed to pacify the Greek concern. Question 3, what is the name of the native inhabitants of Australia? The answer is the Aborigines. And this is a map of Australia. I think it was in the 1990s. The Aborigines for a long time really felt that a lot of land had been taken away from them by the Australian government, and they wanted it back. And to sort of address that concern, the Australian government finally set aside a part of the outback, the desert part of the country, and called it the Northern Territory. Similar to what Canada did as far as the Inuits go, or what we generally refer to as the Canadian Eskimo. They eventually set aside the 3rd territory in Canada. You've got the Northwest Territory, you've got the Yukon, and then you have Inuit. And the Inuit is territory that's been set aside for the Inuit Eskimos. Where is the Strait of Magellan located? The Pacific. And it's basically a navigable sea route through the southern end of Chile in South America and the northern part of the Terra del Fuego, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And it's located right down here. Name the capital of the following countries. The capital of Belgium is Brussels. Capital, which is obviously in Europe, the Pacific, Western Europe. You have Cameroon. Where is Cameroon? What region? Sub-Saharan Africa. It's part of East Central Africa. And its capital is Yaoundé. Myanmar, which is part of Southeast Asia. We generally think of it as far as its old name, Burma. Today it is called Myanmar. And its capital is Naypyidaw. You have Oman, which is a Middle Eastern country on the Arabian Peninsula. Its capital is Muscat. And then you have Uruguay, which is a country in South America, and its capital is Montevideo. Montevideo, excuse me. Name the country where you would find the following historical and cultural sites. You have the Red Fort of Agra, where the Taj Mahal is located. It's in India, in the town of Agra. You have the Neuschwanstein Castle, which is in Germany. You have the Prambanan Temple, which is in Indonesia. You have the Serengeti National Park, which is in Tanzania. And you have the Erbil Citadel, which is in Iraq. And these are pictures of each. This is the Red Fort. This is when the Mongols were in control of India, probably 600-700 years ago. This is the Neuschwanstein Castle. Walt Disneyland, you know, the fantasy castle was based on the concept of the Neuschwanstein Castle. You have the Prambanan Temple, which is in Indonesia. You have the Serengeti National Park, which is in Tanzania. Isn't that gorgeous? And then you have the Erbil Citadel, which was a major trading center. You know, I forget exactly, maybe 1,000 years ago. That eventually, you know, was overtaken by other trading centers. Question 7, name the 5 Great Lakes in the United States. I remember when I was in grammar school, we came up with the, abbreviation HOMES to help us remember. It's Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. And you can see where they are located. Question 8, name the 3 countries in the world that are completely surrounded by another country. First is Lesotho, which is in South Africa. I'll show you maps in a minute. You have San Marino, which is in Italy. And then you also have the Vatican City, which is in Italy too. It's a kind of an enclave within the city of Rome. This is where Lesotho is located. In an earlier class, somebody thought Swaliland, which today is Swatini, it was renamed to Swatini, was an enclave as well. But you can see its eastern coast borders Mozambique. And this is where San Marino is located. And here's Rome, and obviously within Rome is the Vatican City. Question 9, name the 3 main islands that make up the U.S. Virgin Islands. The answer is St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix. And they are located in the Lesser Antilles. When you talk about the Americas, one of the Americas is the Caribbean America. And the Caribbean America can be further broken into the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles. The Greater Antilles are the big islands: Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. The other smaller islands are generally referred to as the Lesser Antilles. And that's where you find the Virgin Islands. I believe we got it from Denmark. I think it was either World War I or World War II. I think it was World War II, to help us provide a naval capability against the German submarines during the war, and also to try to control the German influence in Latin American countries like Brazil, for example. Yes.
Is there a base there on that island?
You mean U.S. military base? Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't know what they are, but I would suspect that there are. I mean, certainly during the war there was. I don't know if they continued it. I would suspect they did. I'll check it. I would certainly expect a naval base to be there, but I don't know offhand, but I'll check. Okay, question 10. The island city-state gained its independence from Malaysia in 1965. The answer is Singapore. This is where it's located. Has anybody ever been to Singapore? It is really a fascinating city-state, a country. It is recognized by the United Nations as a sovereign state. And it has a very socialistic form of government, very, very focused on trying to look out for the welfare of its people. A lot of their programs, are aimed not only at education and healthcare, providing programs for pregnant women to make sure they get the proper checks, during their pregnancy. A very, very social-minded government that really looks out for the welfare of its people.
Does it have a large amount of Americans? Is that why it's being excluded?
I would imagine that there is a fairly large American influence there. In the 1990s timeframe, you had what was known as small countries that are economically starting to evolve. They're called the Pacific Rim countries. It included Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, Taiwan, and the fifth one evades me. And so it's always been a center for technological advancements. So it has a very, very prosperous, even though it's an island, it has a very, very prosperous economy with a good standard of living. Yes?
My sister's husband worked for Sunstrand, was like associated with that, they apparently were the highest ranking Americans in Singapore, so they got invited to all the diplomatic functions, oh yeah. And they were put up, I don't know, well, Sunstrand probably paid for it, but they were in the 7th story of a hotel. She didn't get to wash any dishes, had maids, everything, really la-di-da. So, but they had to come back to the States once a year. I forget how long, maybe a month. And I don't know what it was, but they had to do that. I don't know why I say, but she did like 2 tours of duty there. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. The kids went to high school. They played ball against other schools, like we had an away game in Japan.
Oh my
really? They're
God.
flying thousands down. Yeah, that's how they, because they're in this tiny little island. They had it made.
Again, back in the 1990s, they were called the Pacific Rim countries. Basically, they were considered the big emerging markets experiencing high economic growth. Normal growth for a country is about 3%. They were averaging 6 to 7% going into the 21st century.
Oh, one other dumb thing. Chewing gum, if you spit it out of the line, that was damn near, a capital offense. It was really serious. They took all that.
Oh yeah, that's very true. That's right.
They were involved, yeah.
Okay, question 11. This country of Zimbabwe was known by this name until it gained its independence in 1980. And the country was known as Rhodesia. I think what's so fascinating about sub-Saharan Africa is the challenge of learning to pronounce the different names that make up the country, makes up the region. Very, very, very intimidating. You know, countries like Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia would be some examples. Question 12, what are the 3 largest mountain ranges in the U.S. in descending order? The answer is the Rocky Mountains, Appalachian Mountains, and the Sierra Nevada Mountains. Oops. And this map shows you the 3 mountain ranges in their descending order. The Rocky Mountains are first, followed by the Appalachian Mountain Range, and then finally the Sierra Nevada Mountain Range. Uh, 13, name the country in the northern part of Africa whose statehood is questioned by Morocco. And this is in the continent of Africa, the northern part of Africa that is part of the Middle East. And the answer is Western Sahara. And here's where it's located. And some of the history, during World War II, it was a mandate of the Spaniards. And after the war, the Spaniards, well, actually it was shared between Spain and Morocco. After the war, Spain basically gave up that partnership and it kind of passed on to Morocco. So Morocco has always considered West Sahara sort of part of Morocco, or at least an administration of the country. Over time, West Sahara said, no, we want our own independence, and moved away. So there's always been friction between the two. Matter of fact, I don't know, I'll look it up. I don't know if the United Nations has recognized West Sahara as a member state yet. Question 14, which Latin American country name is translated to the Savior in English? The answer is El Salvador. It's in Central America, located right here. Question 15. The metric system, also known as the International System of Units, SI, is used worldwide except in these 3 countries: Liberia, Myanmar, and the USA. And many will argue that to a large extent, you know, the US has somewhat accommodated the metric system. If you go on our highways, even our sources of food, you'll generally see not only the American Standard System, but also the metric system as well. And some will argue the reason why the United States has converted is stubbornness. You know, we just don't want, you know, we like being different. And it may be the same reason why Liberia and Myanmar is in that group as well. And this is where they're located. United States, Liberia is located here, Myanmar is located in Southeast Asia.
It's amazing that Myanmar would not do it, they're surrounded by it.
What's that?
Myanmar is surrounded and it's not going to metric, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes, it's just a sense of independence. I want to be different, especially when you're small, you're poor. To show you how bad it can get, take North Korea. North Korea is a very, very poor country, but yet it wanted world recognition. And how were they able to achieve that? They achieved it by developing a nuclear weapons capability. So now you have to take notice with them. And maybe they don't get the attention that they want, but rest assured, worldwide, even here in the United States, we're very, very concerned over that nuclear weapons capability. Question 16, which sunny spot in the Atlantic Ocean is Britain's oldest colony? The answer is Bermuda. This shows you where it's located. And this is what Bermuda looks like. Its capital is Hamilton. What is Africa's second highest mountain range? The answer is Mount Kenya, the second highest peak in Africa after Kilimanjaro. It stands in central Kenya, with the highest peak being the Bataine at 5,199 meters, 17,057 feet. Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania stands at a height of 5,895 feet, or 19,340 feet. This is where it's located, within Kenya, and this gives you an idea of what it looks like. 18, what is the largest island in the Atlantic Ocean? The answer is Greenland. It's actually the largest island in the world. And this is where it's located. I haven't heard too much from President Trump lately as to whether or not he still wants to acquire Greenland, but who knows what's happening behind the scenes. One of the reasons why he's interested in it, not only from a military defense, we do have a military Air Force element there that is part of the early warning system for air defense of the free world. And it's also a country that's very enriched with raw earth materials. And President Trump isn't the first president. There's been several presidents in the past that likewise considered it as well. That their names don't come to mind right now, but it's not a Trump initiative. Other past presidents recognize the military economic value of Greenland. And there's been some scuttlebutt that Denmark is having its own economic financial problems, and have even considered the possibility of giving Greenland its independence or home rule. And if that happens, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe the United States won't take over the island, make it a state, but may get into some type of a free trade agreement, which will create a strong influence in Greenland. Question 19, which island on the Pearl River Delta has a name meaning fragrant harbor? The answer is Hong Kong. This is where Hong Kong is located, in China. And this is just a better view of Hong Kong. A major export seaport as far as international trade goes. Question 20, which ends our international questions. What was blamed for killing an estimated 300,000 to 500,000 people, depending on the source you go to, in the region now called Bangladesh in 1970? What was Bangladesh called at the time of the disaster? The answer to cause it is a cyclone. Cyclone is kind of like our hurricane. In Asia, they end up calling it a cyclone. And at the time of the disaster, Bangladesh was called East Pakistan. Give you a little history. When the British finally gave up South Asia in 1947, it basically created the country the country of India was created. And as far as Pakistan went, there was two parts, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, predominantly Muslim countries, even though India itself has a fairly large Muslim population as well. Anywhere from 15 to 20% of its population is Muslim. Matter of fact, it's the second largest concentration of Muslims in the world. Anyways, because of the geographical location between West Pakistan and East Pakistan, it was very, very difficult to have a unified country. So I think it was in the 1970s, early 1970s timeframe. Bangladesh East Pakistan went its own way. It eventually called itself Bangladesh, and West Pakistan took on the name Pakistan. And now we get into the U.S. geography. Again, in this third round, I increased the U.S. questions from 5 to 10 questions. What is the oldest city in the U.S.? The answer is St. Augustine in Florida. I don't know if I'll be very surprised if a large part of the audience have in fact not been to Florida and turned St. Augustine. And these are some of the local tourist attractions. Probably one of the best known is the alligator, which is very well represented through the whole state of Florida. Question 2. What U.S. city is known as the rubber capital of the world? And the answer is Akron, Ohio. In 1871, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company moved to Akron due to the abundant water supply and the expansion of the railroad system westward. You go to the source. A little bit of history, I guess, in a way, but still geographical. You know, where is or are OK Corral? And in Boot Hill. Answer, the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona, became famous for the gunfight shootout between the Erbs brothers and a cattle horse wrestling group called the Cowboys on October 26, 1881. Matter of fact, there's several movies about Tombstone. One starring, who was it? Kurt Russell. The shootout actually occurred outside the C.S. Fly photography studio, which was 6 doors west of the OK Corral. Boot Hill was sort of a generic term that used in the Old West, and it was used to identify cemeteries. And the two most famous were Boot Hill in Dodge City, and obviously Boot Hill in Tombstone, Arizona. What is the capital of the following U.S. states? Arkansas is Little Rock. Nebraska is Lincoln. Oregon is Salem. Pennsylvania is Harrisburg. Many think it's Philadelphia. It's not. Rhode Island is Providence. And you can see here's Oregon, here's Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Arkansas. What U.S. state boasts Mountain Stone, the world's largest mass of exposed granite? The answer is Georgia, 15 miles east of the city of Atlanta. And this is what it looks like. What is the nickname of the following U.S. states? In the second iteration, you know, this current iteration, I told you beside the capitals of the states, I would start asking you about the nicknames. The nickname for Hawaii is the, what is it? Aloha? Aloha State, also known as the Paradise of the Pacific, the Islands of the Aloha, Rainbow State, and the 50th state. Mississippi is best known for the Magnolia State. It's also known for the Hospitality State, also the Bayou State. New Mexico, Land of the Enchantment. Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, the Coal State, the Oil State, and the Quaker State. You ever been to the Amish or Amish area near, I think, outside of Harrisburg? And then you have Washington. The state of Washington is known as the Evergreen State. In the middle 1800s, this land route to the Pacific Northwest ran from Independent, Missouri to Fort Vancouver, Washington. And the answer is the Oregon Trail. Pioneers and covered wagons traveled 2,000 miles over a period of 6 months to reach the West Coast. And this is what the trail looked like. Question 8, what is the significance of President Polk's 5440 or fight presidential election slogan to the state of Washington in 1844? Both the U.S. and Great Britain laid claim to the Oregon Territory. Polk's position was the U.S. owned the land to latitude 54 degrees 40 minutes and was willing to fight for it. After taking office, he settled at 49 degrees latitude, which became the northern border of the state of Washington. And you can see here, this is what he wanted, and this is what he finally agreed to settle. Question 9, this U.S. state was originally part of another U.S. state, but decided to break away over the question of slavery. In 1863, it became the 35th U.S. state. The answer is West Virginia. When Virginia joined the Confederacy during the Civil War, the western part of the state did not support slavery and went a separate way. And the last, this is West Virginia, and this is Virginia. And the final question. As a result of the Spanish-American War in 1898, Spain ceded what territories to the U.S.? The answer is Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Guam, and also Cuba. The U.S. gave Cuba its independence on May 20th, 1902, and the Philippines gained its independence on July 4th, 1946. Puerto Rico and Guam are still U.S. territories. This is where Puerto Rico is located. Here's Cuba. And this is the Philippines. And so it's in Southeast Asia. And then finally, you got Guam Island, which is in Micronesia, basically the Pacific Ocean.
What's the
Oceania.
difference between a state and a territory, and why don't we make it a state?
Basically, take Puerto Rico, for example. Take Puerto Rico, for example. It's a commonwealth. They have wrestled in-house themselves as to whether or not they wanted to declare their independence, or they wanted to become a state, or they wanted to maintain Commonwealth status. Commonwealth status as a territory basically means you get federal aid from the U.S. government. You have I believe, a representative in the House, in the U.S. House of Representatives. You don't have any voting power. I don't think they have a senator, but they also can vote as far as the presidential elections go. The big question with Puerto Rico is the fact that they could go it alone, but they're not sure if they could really survive without economic support, federal funding from the U.S. government. So it's been a toss-up question over the years as to whether or not they would declare their independence. Didn't want to become a state because they lose a lot of the benefits that they would have. What they have talked about is what they call an enhanced Commonwealth status, which would give them more of a voice, you know, in the U.S. Congress, not only as far as the House but also the Senate. That ends yes.
And then there's the District of Columbia.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's not a territory. It's part of the United States.
It's not a state either.
No, it's not. It's not. It's District of Columbia, just like in Australia. Australia has a district itself. Many think that Sydney is the capital of Australia. It's not. Canberra is. It's considered the district in, I forget one of the states. I forget the name of the state. Yes.
Why do they use Commonwealth for legal? I mean, Massachusetts is a Commonwealth.
It's just the legal status that it has. It's considered a territory of the United States, and the Commonwealth status, I think, gives them more of a say as far as as far as the government goes.
What's the difference between a Commonwealth like Massachusetts and a state like Connecticut?
I don't know. I'll check. Take Guam, for example. Guam is not a Commonwealth. It's considered a territory.
I know.
I don't know. I'll check. Okay. That ends the discussion for today. Any questions? Okay, I will give you the questions for next month.